So we all know of the Land Before Time film series, consisting with the first film released by Don Bluth in 1988, spawning 12 sequels consistently between 1994 and 2007, and a 13th sequel in 2016. However, there was also an animated TV series between 2007 and 2008 broadcasted on Cartoon Network. It didn't last for too long, only running for 2 seasons with 26 episodes total. Of course, the overarching plot mostly took place in the Great Valley, with Littlefoot and his friends, and they are joined by Chomper and Ruby from the Mysterious Beyond, who are supposedly there to think of ideas to get rid of Redclaw, an edgy DeviantArt OC, a Sharptooth who is terrorizing Mysterious Beyond. Honestly, I wish we could have seen them try to explain Chomper to the other adults, especially Mr. Freehorn. I can't imagine that it went too well. If all you're looking for is how the show itself holds up, here's a general overview. If you have very young kids and they absolutely love The Land Before Time, then they're going to like this. The animation is pretty decent for TV animation from this time period, and it's pretty harmless fluff. The songs might get a bit annoying, especially since there's really only 3 original songs that are repeated and the rest are just rehashed versions from the movie, but there's nothing harmful in here. If your kid is older, I don't see them really being into it. I know when I saw 1 or 2 episodes as a kid, I didn't really like it, but I was also in 4th grade. If you're older and looking at the TV series, I don't really think you're gonna get much value out of it unless you're visiting it for nostalgic reasons or you really love the Land Before Time movies. Which, if you do, I will say it's not as bad as Wisdom of Friends, so there's that. Now that that's out of the way, I don't really want to leave the video at that. I spent like 10 hours watching cartoon dinosaurs. I can't just talk about how it's mediocre for 2 minutes and call it good. So, I will rank the episodes from worst to best and give a small summary and my thoughts on them, just for funsies. And remember, my following thoughts are just my personal opinion. If you have different thoughts from me, that's fantastic, and I'd love to hear it in the comments down below. With that out of the way, we're gonna go over all of the episodes in the bad category first. Starting off with what I thought to be the worst one, The Amazing Freehorn Girl. In this one, Littlefoot and his friends are running away from crocodiles that made it into the Great Valley, and Sarah gets separated in the chase. She ends up scaring them off by accidentally making rocks fall and meets up with her other friends, who immediately begin to exaggerate her heroics despite her attempting to stop them. Eventually this spreads to the rest of the grown-ups, who begin to sing praises and want to hear the story over and over, and despite her trying to tell the truth, she is pushed into embellishing the story. And of course, being Sarah, she starts to like the attention, and willingly embellishes the story, and in standard liar revealed fashion, it's found out that she didn't actually do what she said. Everyone gets angry, blah blah blah. I'm already not a huge fan of liar revealed plots, and I especially don't like how it was handled here, as it felt like she wasn't even given the opportunity to tell the truth despite multiple attempts. And in the song they sang after finding out Sarah exaggerated her later versions of the story, the adults talk about throwing her out. Guys, this is a child, calm down. Also, these kids have fought Sharptooth and found resources before, and no one sung them praises like this. What the heck? Next up is Search for the Sky Color Stones. This one almost made it to mid-tier. Basically, Littlefoot and Sarah try to tell the others about Sky Color Stone, which are just geodes. They get a bit competitive with who can find the stones first, as Littlefoot thinks it would be easiest to find them in the river, and Sarah thinks it would be easiest to find them in the cave. However, it went to rock bottom for me because of the second half of the episode, as Ducky gets incredibly out of character. She not only gets extremely possessive over the stones and gets a bit nasty and aggressive towards Sarah and Ruby for some reason, but she leaves Spike stuck in a hole in order to look for stones. I know he wasn't really in any danger, but I could never see Ducky leaving any of her siblings in distress just to look for geodes, especially not Spike. I mean, come on, Ducky is the sweetest. Why y'all gonna do her dirty here? Hashtag not my Ducky. Next is the Mysterious Tooth Crisis. Chomper loses one of his teeth, and when Mr. Freehorn tells him that he's going to turn into bones and fall apart by the day's end, Chomper is trying to figure out a way to fix his tooth. However, by the end he learns that it's just a baby tooth and he'll grow a new one. I mean, it's really honestly not the worst thing in existence, but it just bothers me. And even bothered me as a kid when I first saw it. Mr. Fickno is really here not knowing that dinosaurs lose their baby teeth. He's really gonna sit there and tell me that this dinosaur and this dinosaur have the same size teeth. Also, Littlefoot and Petrie really just gonna sit there and not just hold Chomper's tooth for 2 seconds while he's hanging on for dear life. And Chomper's really about to die over a tooth instead of just throwing it on the dry land. I don't know, it feels like everyone kind of just acts really stupid here. Okay, moving on to the brave Longneck scheme. Allie is back in the Great Valley, but goes to Littlefoot and his friends because there's this Longneck named Rhett who claims to have scared off sharp-teeth dinosaurs from attacking his herd. So they decide to show Allie that Rhett isn't as brave as he says he is by using Chomper to scare him, which in turn Red tells his herd about Chomper, who are about to unalive him before the kids confess to having pranked Red. It is good to show that pranks like this have huge consequences, as people don't always know it's a joke, and especially in this day and age, people really need to show that. But it's this low for me since Allie is just kind of a two-faced female dog in this. Next in the ranking is the Meadow of Jumping Waters. Ruby and Chopper decide to take the gang over to a field of geysers that somehow don't scald you upon impact, and then Red Claw chases them for a bit. The story itself is fine, I guess, but it gets knocked down since Petrie is extremely annoying in this episode.
Give me bad luck, 3 stars! Oh! See? Me not fall if Spike not eat 3 stars.
Shut up!
Next is a spooky nighttime adventure. Ruby tells a scary story about a Sharptooth named the Hidden Runner, who can apparently turn invisible and attacks when you're sleeping. This gives the kids nightmares, and when Ruby tries to get Mr. Ficknose to tell them that she just made up the story, he tells them that Hidden Runner is real and takes the kids to go find him. They do end up finding the Hidden Runner, which is a dinosaur that uses camouflage to turn quote-unquote invisible at first glance. Here is unfortunately where we get to see Mr. Ficknose's character assassination. He takes the kids willingly on a dangerous mission to try to find an invisible Sharptooth, doesn't bat an eye when the kids are worried about being eaten, and is almost ready to leave Sarah alone just to try to chase after this damn dinosaur. I was almost thinking this whole adventure at first was just going to be an elaborate prank from Mr. Ficknose to scare the kids, because I didn't think he would be this irresponsible. But no, he is this irresponsible, and I hate it. I mean, come on, I loved him in the Big Freeze. Why are they massacring my boy?
What if Hidden Runner eat us?
I missed the part where that's my problem.
Next is the Hidden Canyon, which, I'm gonna say it, this one makes no sense. Which you might see once I explain the plot. The kids find a hidden canyon, in which there are some fruit trees. They decide to keep it a secret so they have a small hideaway for themselves and sweet treats, since they really don't see any harm in having this area to themselves. Which, just looking at this, there is no harm in keeping this to themselves. But then some Sharpteeth appear in the Great Valley. The kids look at the canyon more carefully, and eventually see that it leads into the mysterious beyond. They decide to tell the adults, who get mad and tell them that they were not supposed to eat the fruit, as Sharpteeth hate the smell of it and keep them out of the Great Valley. Man, I wish that I had as much faith in anything as these dinosaurs do in these damn fruit trees. So, let me get this straight. They know about this section of the wall where the only defense of them not getting eaten is a couple fruit trees. Why wouldn't they tell the kids about this so they wouldn't eat the fruit? Why would they even risk this in the first place? Why wouldn't they just block it off like they do at the end? What about in the cold seasons when the trees would go dormant? Why don't any Sharpteeth come in for the canyon then? You know, come to think of it, how is it that migrating herds can come and go, but not Sharpteeth? This is bringing up too many questions, let's move on. Okay, we're finally getting out of the bad territory. Now we're going into the mid-tier category. These episodes are just kind of okay. I'll have more to say about some than others. First up is the first episode of the series, The Cave of Many Voices. Littlefoot and company try to find a new cave for Ruby and Chomper to live, and meanwhile, Ruby tries to teach Ducky to talk big so she won't get ignored all the time. Redclaw does get into some of the caves, and the kids take advantage of the echoey cave to scare them back into the mysterious beyond. Songs are trash like the rest of the series, but it's honestly okay. Next is the Canyon of Shiny Stones. Sarah accidentally loses one of Tria's shiny stones, and decides to go with her friends to find a new one for her. This is where they start to use cel-shaded animation for some segments of the series, which honestly is super distracting. But at least we get a couple nice moments with Sarah and Tria. Wish we got more of that in the series, but whatever. Next is a great long-running game. Ducky comes up with a new game of running on the log in the water and seeing how long he can stay on it, which the two-legged dinosaurs are able to do, but not the four-legged ones. Sarah, being a proud freehorn, decides to prove that the freehorns can do anything, but ends up nearly getting hurt. Kids would like this just fine. It's got some silly moments in there, though can I just point out this animation error? Here's Sarah in the water, and here's Sarah on land. How did they not notice this? Next is Stranger from the Mysterious Above. Spike falls into a hole where some freehorn gophers live, and call him the Big Wise One. The kids go try to get help from Mr. Ficknose and Mr. Freehorn, who kinda just end up arguing the whole episode for what to do. Everyone ends up being so useless that Spike gets himself out of the situation. At least the gophers weren't as annoying as they could have been. And while the song is literally just a ripoff of the Stone of Cold Fire, Rob Paulsen Carlson does have a nice singing voice, so I'll give him that. We got the Forbidden Friendship next. The winter has been particularly harsh, and most of the plants have not grown back yet. The Stegosaurus herd from the Big Freeze movie come back, wanting to see if the Great Valley dinosaurs would be okay with sharing the food they have. Of course, the two herds get into a fight, and Spike and Tippy are forbidden from playing with each other. The two do play together secretly and find an area with plenty of food to go around, but the two herds just kind of fight some more until they have to work together to save Spike and Tippy. This one is kind of just the same old stale formula of the adults getting into a fight and being stubborn, until the kids show them that being stubborn and fighting is dumb. It's painfully average at this point. Okay, now we're moving out of the mid-tier category, and we're moving on to the good category, though keep in mind these are mostly just good for young kids. Starting with Escape from the Mysterious Beyond, the kids are exploring caves and accidentally end up in the Mysterious Beyond, where they are chased by Redclaw, Screech, and Fudd. An earthquake occurs, and Ducky and Chomper end up trapped with Fudd, who luckily for them is pinned under rocks. The other kids find a way to save Ducky and Chomper. Eventually the other kids get saved, and Chomper decides to be nice and free Fudd from the rocks. In return, Fudd leads Screech and Redclaw from the kids. This one is alright, and gives a little bit more character to Fudd, though of course this characterization is erased by the next episode. We then have the Bright Circle celebration, which is basically just a Thanksgiving episode. While everyone is excitedly preparing for the feast, Sarah and her dad stay away from everyone, thinking the whole thing is just silly. Eventually they decide to join and help when a fire is threatening the whole celebration. This one is kind of dull at points, and the fire scene went on for a little bit too long, but I'm glad the entire episode wasn't centered on Sarah being crabby and stubborn, and that Mr. Freehorn does decide to let loose a bit too. Next is the Days of Rising Waters. A heavy rainstorm takes out Petrie's nest, forcing him and his family to move. He completely flips out, but some of his friends try to help him with the move. Meanwhile, Sarah tasks Ducky with teaching her little sister how to swim. I actually kind of forgot about the B plot with Sarah, but the storyline with Petrie would be nice for kids who struggle with the concept and feelings of moving, though Petrie is once again really obnoxious here. Next up is The Lonely Journey. Chomper feels lonely and shunned in the Great Valley, being the only Sharptooth there, so he decides to go out to the Mysterious Beyond to try to get some Sharpteeth to be friendly, which doesn't really work out. Eventually he gets saved by his friends, and sees he is not truly alone in the Great Valley, so this episode's also alright. I'm glad he wasn't able to just convert a Sharptooth right away, but it would have been nice to set up a character that we could have seen later for some overarching character development. Though this is making me realize how tragic things are for Chomper. He's never really going to truly be accepted by herbivores, since he's a carnivore, but he's never truly going to get along with carnivores either, because of their instinct and the fact that they wouldn't be able to see eye to eye on what to eat. And what about when he's full grown? There's no way he's going to be able to keep himself going on bugs alone. Either he's going to starve, or he's going to be forced to eat herbivores anyway. He has been doomed to eventually have an existential and survival crisis when he grows up. But anyways.
Yeah, I guess sharp teeth can be a problem sometimes.
Yes, they're horrible, vicious creatures.
We then move on to Return to Hanging Rock. Balls of fire are falling in the Mysterious Beyond, and Ruby decides to go check up on her family. Ducky, Chomper, and Spike follow her, even though she thinks it would be best to go alone. Eventually, Ruby sees her family is okay, and learns that the Great Valley dinosaurs are her family too. Honestly, the best part of this is that the I'm So Happy song was cut off by a Sharptooth.
I feel so happy, I want everyone to see.
In all seriousness, this one was alright, though it kind of followed too many story beats from the last Land Before Time movie, which I guess actually the movie would have followed more story beats from this episode. Either way, it was a little bit too repetitive. Next is March of the Sand Creepers. A bunch of crabs find their way into the Great Valley. Ducky tries to teach the crabs to be careful and not to annoy the other dinosaurs, who are on the verge of kicking the crabs out, while the rest of the kids go to see why the crabs left their home, seeing a crab named Scuttle and a lagoon partially filling with lava. Eventually the kids convince Scuttle to come to the Great Valley and bring the other crabs back to their home. I was actually more entertained by Ducky taking care of all the crabs than I was by Scuttle, though at least we do get to see a good lesson about standing up for yourself and not letting someone take advantage of you. Next is For the Eyes of a Spiketail. Mr. Thicknose tells the kids about these frozen treats that are hard to find but are delicious, and he and Mr. Freehorn tell the kids that if they find these berries, they will give them all the tree sweets in the Great Valley. The rest of the episode is done through mostly Spike's thoughts, and we get some perspective from him. Honestly, Spike is a mood. He's also tired of the same old tropes from the series, new favorite character, though in all seriousness, we do get some funny moments, and I do like to see a little bit more character development from Spike. The Missing Fast Water adventure is next. An earthquake causes one of the rivers to dry up. Littlefoot suggests that they go to see if anything is preventing the water from flowing, but he's just ignored, even though the last time this happened, it was because of rocks preventing water flow, but whatever. The kids decide to fix it themselves since the adults are once again being useless, and also come across Mo upriver, who helps them fix the issue. This one is kind of a fusion of The Time of the Great Giving and Journey to Big Water, but at least they toned down Mo a little bit to not be as annoying. Next is the Big Long Neck Test. Littlefoot's dad is giving him the Big Long Neck Test to see if he will be ready to one day lead a herd on his own. Meanwhile, Shorty, who is jealous that he's determined not to be ready to take the test yet, tries to prove that he's a good leader to Littlefoot's friends, but he ends up being a horrible leader that just tells them what to do. I like that the episode shows that there's more to being a good leader than just giving commands, which unfortunately a lot of people that call themselves leaders are a bit more like Shorty. And while the first two segments of the test are pretty standard, I like that the last part of the test is a test of judgment, to see when situations are too dangerous to attempt. And we do get some good moments with Littlefoot and his dad too. We got the Lone Dinosaur Returns up next. Doc is returning to the Great Valley to meet up with his friend Dara. Chomper is afraid of him, as honestly the stories of heroics that Doc did would be terrifying to him, and his friends try to hide him. Doc eventually does see Chomper, and of course doesn't trust him, which Littlefoot does end up telling Doc that he is wrong. Littlefoot and his friends find Dara thanks to Chomper's sense of smell, and Doc sees that he was wrong about Chomper, and even thanks Littlefoot for standing up to him and telling him that he was wrong, which I do appreciate the show telling kids that adults aren't always right. This one was probably more entertaining than the movie that Doc debuted in, and we do get a good lesson as well. Next is a Star Day celebration. Ruby's Star Day is coming up, which is basically her birthday. However, she's sad because this is her first Star Day without her family. Her friends decide to try to cheer her up by bringing her her favorite food, which doesn't go as planned, but it's okay as Ruby no longer feels so alone for her Star Day. This is a sweet episode and thankfully doesn't lean too hard into tropes that would be common with this type of storyline in children's shows for surprise birthday parties, though it does kind of drag a little bit in the middle. Next is a Great Egg Adventure. Some raptor eggs are found in the caves inside of the Great Valley, so Littlefoot recruits the help of Hip and his lackeys to take the eggs and lead the mom away from the Great Valley. I do like that they brought back Hip and kept him in line with his character without revoking his character development, which would have been very easy to do. The proportions between the characters are kind of weird, with Littlefoot being Hip's height now, but I'll just pretend that they've grown more compared to Hip and his friends from last time. Next is the Legend of the Story Speakers. Grandpa Longneck are telling the friends some stories, and another Longneck that's a friend of Littlefoot's grandpa named Sorrow comes up. Sorrow asks Grandpa Longneck to leave the Great Valley and become a wandering storyteller once again, as the old stories are being forgotten. Grandpa Longneck says he can't, as he has to stay with Littlefoot and his grandmother in the Great Valley. Sorrow just kinda gets mad and leaves, and Littlefoot and Chomper try to chase him down to convince him to talk with Littlefoot's grandfather. They all get trapped out of the Great Valley due to a landslide, and Sorrow tries to keep the kids calm by telling them a story of a Longneck that was brave and saved his sister from the wind. Eventually, though, they get saved by Grandpa Longneck, who passes the torch of storytelling to Sorrow. This one is a nice episode, and I do like the stories. They kind of remind me of ancient stories from tribes that are passed down orally from generation to generation. Now, for the most part, the show hasn't been anything super special, and is more so mindless fluff for kids. Though, the best episode is pretty much at almost the same quality as the movies, or perhaps even better than some of the worst Land Before Time sequels. That episode is Hermit of Black Rock. In this episode, there's a huge windstorm. Guido also pays a visit to the Great Valley. Guido wants to learn how to glide in the wind, which at first Petrie is reluctant, but decides to teach him for a bit. Petrie soon realizes it's getting dangerous and tells him that they can't fly anymore, but Guido is so enthralled by how good he was flying and he decides to go airborne, which causes him and Petrie to get swept to Black Rock. The other kids, instead of doing anything stupid, go tell the grown-ups what happened and assist them by getting them food and supplies. Petrie and Guido, hurt from the landing and unable to fly back, come across an old blind flyer named Swooper. Guido comes up with the idea for them to ride at Swooper's back and give him directions to fly back to the valley, which is successful thanks to their teamwork. Thankfully, Petrie isn't super annoying in this one, and we do get some good chemistry between him and Guido. We don't have any pointless arguments or stubborn behavior, and the fights that do happen are resolved really quickly. Also, I love Swooper. We get some funny moments from him, and he's just a sweet old dinosaur. If anything happens to him, I will kill everyone in this room and then myself. We still don't have any good songs in this one, but hey, I'll take what I can get from the show. And that is The Land Before Time. It's mostly harmless fun, even if it's pretty average. If you ever saw the series as a kid, let me know what you thought of it back then. And if you want to see more videos like this in the future, make sure to give that subscribe button a gentle caress and a little kiss. I'm sorry, I won't say that again. But until next time, this is Dance Macabre, signing off. Bye bye.